Hello, as it is Oscar weekend, I decided I wanted to do an Oscar predictions video. I was going to react to the Oscars after they aired, but I decided I wanted to share my predictions for all the categories that I'm familiar with, at least to some extent. And I'm curious to see in my running total how many of these I get right. I will start this off by saying that there are a lot of films I have not yet seen that I desperately want to. Unfortunately, I don't get to the movies all that often, and I do predominantly cover, I mean, like I said, this is a music covering channel, so I don't necessarily like goes to the movies just to review them. I do want to go in that direction at some point and review more movies on this channel, but I kind of only do get to see movies on the odd occasion that I do early. Usually I have to wait until they come out on DVD, and a lot of these movies are slowly now finally starting to come out on DVD, so I can like actually start to watch them. Movies like Ladybird and Call Me By Your Name, I am really excited to see. I also want to see Shape of Water, and I also want to see Three Billboards. Although Three Billboards, to be honest, I'm not really that interested. I'm just going to see it because it's getting a lot of hype, see what all the hype is really about. Don't really understand what it's about. I haven't really researched it that much. Call Me By Your Name, as a gay man, very excited about that film. And the cinematography and everything, it looks really beautiful. The story is so impactful, and then Shape of Water looks really creative and visually arresting, so I'm really excited for that. And Lady Bird, I just can't stop hearing good things about it, so I'm really excited to see those films. I will say there are some films that I have seen. So I have seen Darkest Hour, and let me tell you, I definitely recommend. I think it is a very, very dramatic, as it needs to be, portrayal for Winston. I think Gary Oldman does a phenomenal job as Winston Churchill, and I think that, I've seen a lot of Winston Churchills portrayed in like different period dramas, more in TV rather than in film, and I think he brought something special to it. I mean, I really found it a very moving and well thought out performance, so I really am rooting for Darkest Hour. I have also seen The Post with Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks. I thought that was a really good film. And I have seen Dunkirk. I saw that back in theaters when it came out. And I also think that that film, I mean, almost all of the categories it's nominated in, and I put it in what I think is going to win. So I do actually have it on this list quite a lot. I'll be curious to see how well it actually does, because I remember when I saw it, it was just like, this is definitely going to win Oscars, no doubt about it. So I've seen a few others that are nominated, like Victoria and Abdul, but they're not in big categories. So let me start. Let's go backwards here. So I'm not going to do like, short film, foreign film, documentary. I haven't really heard of any of the films nominated in those categories, so I can't judge those. So we'll start with, for Best Writing Original Screenplay, I chose Lady Bird. I think that is going to be the winner. I just heard so much about the writing and how witty and clever it is. And I know that Lady Bird has been getting so much traction. So, especially in this current climate that we're in of Me Too, I really don't see Lady Bird not going home with at least some big award. And it is kind of lost out in a lot of other categories, I feel like, from films that may overshadow it. But this is the one I really do think it has its best shot of winning. For best screenwriting for an adapted screenplay, I chose Call Me By Your Name, though this was a really tricky one. There were several others in there that I thought it was really a toss-up. I mean, like I said, I haven't actually seen a lot of these films, so it's really difficult for me to necessarily be the accurate judge, but just going by based on, how the industry has favored films in the past and seeing the traction and awards things have gotten. Again, I feel like for this, it was one of Call Me By Your Name's moments to shine, but I wouldn't be surprised if I got this one wrong. This is one of the few I put an asterisk by where I'm really kind of unsure. It feels a little bit like a toss-up. For visual effects, I was also unsure, as I had seen very few of the films nominated in this category. But I decided I think War for the Planet of the Apes might get that one. I mean, Blade Runner 2049, again, I haven't seen either of them. I've heard good things about it. I'm not interested in these films by any means to see them. Although, I mean, War for Planet of the Apes, who knows, I may end up seeing it. I just don't necessarily want to. But I feel like I heard a lot of good things about the visual effects from that, so maybe. For sound mixing and sound editing, I put Dunkirk for both. I just feel as though that was just, out of all the nominees for those categories, the most, I mean, if you've watched the film, I mean, the sound effects, the score is a little understated. I mean, there is a very dramatic soundtrack for it, but it's a little bit more of a, soundscape, and it's not necessarily like anything melodic that you can remember after watching the film even several times. It's more about, the sounds of the explosions, the sounds of the gunfire, the sounds of being submerged underwater, the mixes and ins and outs and fades of close dialogue to lots of sound. It was just very masterfully done, really beautiful. I would be very surprised if Dunkirk did not win at least one of those awards, if not both of them. For production design, I was a bit unsure, but I ultimately went with The Shape of Water. I feel like the Oscars tend to gravitate on one film. In fact, all of the major award ceremonies, like the BAFTAs, the Golden Globes. And I just feel as though The Shape of Water is the one that is going to steal a lot of the awards. And the Oscars do tend to kind of play favorites to one film and give, whoever wins Best Picture also wins best director and best, like a lot of these things, kind of cinematography, sometimes they all kind of follow suit. So I put all my eggs in Shape of Water's basket. But I might be wrong. Dunkirk has a possibility. Beauty and the Beast would be nice. That's nominated for production design. I would personally like to see that win that, but I really don't think it has a chance, that big of chance of winning that. I'd be really happy if it did. For music original song, I selected Mystery of Love by Surfjan Stevens from Call Me By Your Name. It is a beautiful, haunting song. I'm not the hugest Surfjan Stevens fan. I know some people might be shocked to hear that, as I am a gay male, and looking at the music that I tend to cover on this channel, I don't know if I'm necessarily going to cover a lot of his music. It's a little bit too, and when I say Sigur Rossi, if anyone knows the band Sigur Rós, I use that as a sort of an adjective to describe predominantly male-driven kind of indie, like alternative rock. Fleet Foxes falls into this category. I appreciate the music because it is beautiful, but sometimes the music gets a little bit weighted, or it feels a little bit redundant. Like, I don't really feel any sort of anything from it besides the fact that I know I'm supposed to. It's sort of like a Wes Anderson film. You're like, I know I'm supposed to view this as like an art film, but I just don't really like it, or I don't get it. Sometimes I'm not as big a hipster as I might come off to be. I find Surfjan Stevens' music sometimes to be a little sleep-inducing. I just don't find it like melodically that entrancing. I'm sure his lyrics are amazing, his soft, beautiful voice. But Mystery of Love is still a gorgeous song, and I have to say, I mean, that's definitely, I mean, This Is Me is also a great song, and I'm excited to see it performed. I do love it, so I'd love to see that song win as well. Remember Me from Coco. I gotta be honest, I am not really crazy about that song. It's by Miguel. I just feel as though it's just a little too like catered to mainstream R&B pop, and it's a little too Bruno Mars for my liking. It does have the Mexican flair, as it should, but I think that This Is Me and Mystery of Love are stronger. So that's why I'm definitely more rooting for Call Me By Your Name. I like the story so much and the emotional attachment to it. I'm really hoping that that song wins, but This Is Me would be good as well. For original score, so for best soundtrack, this category is usually very important to me. I had a hard time deciding, but ultimately, I thought Alexander Desplat for Shape of Water. Like I said, I'm sort of putting all of my eggs in one basket. I mean, Hans Zimmer did a phenomenal job with Dunkirk. And if you watch my top 10 soundtracks video, which I'll link in the description that I just put out, sort of in honor of the Oscars this week, the Social Network won Best Soundtrack in 2010 or 2011. I can't remember what year. And it had a very similar soundtrack that was very electronic, and it was a little bit hip hop. Wasn't like Dunkirk in any way, but it wasn't melodic. It wasn't like a traditional soundtrack. And I was very shocked to see it win. So who knows? Hans Zimmer might snag this for Dunkirk. I wouldn't complain if they did. The other one is Phantom Thread, Johnny Greenwood. I haven't seen Phantom Thread, but I'm sure it's got a nice soundtrack. I mean, it's probably a very beautiful orchestral suite. Star Wars, John Williams. John Williams is an amazing composer, and he does have an iconic theme for Star Wars. I've got to be honest, I'm not a big Star Wars person. I don't hate it. I just never really got into it. I've only seen The Force Awakens, and I haven't seen Rogue One or Last Jedi, and I don't know when or if I'm going to see those films. I did see all the originals from the 70s like a long time ago, but I don't gravitate to Star Wars in the same way. But, John Williams is an amazing composer, so but I'm still thinking Shape of Water for original score. For makeup and hairstyling, we only had three choices. It was Victoria and Abdul, Darkest Hour, or Wonder. And I ultimately went with Darkest Hour. I do think that Victoria and Abdul, as I said, I have seen this movie. It is phenomenal. I highly recommend you see it. It's a Focus Features film with Dame Judi Dench. And as she plays Queen Victoria in her later life and her Indian lover. It's phenomenal with the costume and makeup, but I do feel like the makeup and hairstyling done for Gary Oldman to actually transform into Winston Churchill, you know, with the massive double chin, all the prosthetics was just so well done. I mean, you have to put the chops to that for their makeup department. For film editing, the nominees were Baby Driver, Dunkirk, I, Tonya, Shape of Water, and Three Billboards. I ultimately gave that one to Dunkirk. I think that again, anything cinematography related and sound effect related, Dunkirk was in the bag. I'd be very surprised. If it goes to Baby Driver, I have not seen Baby Driver, but I do not understand what the hype is of that film. It looks horrible in my opinion. I'm sorry. Um, that's just my opinion, but I don't really want to see Baby Driver win anything. It's not my kind of movie, though. I guess I should understand the movie was not made for me, and like sometimes movies that are not very good, in my opinion, like win a lot of awards, like Mad Max Fury Road in 2016. It was, I can't remember. It won all these awards, and I was just like, what is happening? Okay, so for director, this one's always an interesting award. We had Dunkirk Get Out by Jordan Peele, which I thought was a very surprising nomination. I have seen Get Out, and you know what? To be completely honest, it's not my favorite horror film. It's almost more like a horror comedy film. I do think it was pretty ingenious, though, and I do give it props for that. I just feel like it sort of goes off the rails towards the end and sort of loses, I feel like, I don't know. I just, it's not really for me, but the storyline is so clever and so well thought out. The premise, I mean, it's so important for our day and age, you know, with racism. Understanding that and making a horror film out of it is just brilliant. So, and Jordan Peele is a phenomenal writer. I'd actually almost love to see this nominated for writing more than so for directing, because I feel like the writing was almost even more wittier. I also just wanted to mention that for original screenplay, because when I was doing this earlier, I wasn't reading off the other films that were nominated. Big Sick was also nominated for that category. And I saw The Big Sick and it is phenomenal. So I would love to see Big Sick win, but ultimately I went for, I think it was Ladybird. But would be nice to see Big Sick win. It's a phenomenal movie. But I'm getting off track. So for directing, Dunkirk, Get Out, Ladybird, Phantom Thread, Shape of Water. Shape of Water is my projected winner for this. Guillermo del Toro, he's a very phenomenal director. He's been getting a lot of buzz for this film. Greta Gerwig would be nice, you know, seeing as she is a female director. I think that her special charm for directing really pushes this film into where it goes. But also, Christopher Nolan, Dunkirk, was phenomenal. So I'm a little bit torn on this one. I actually put Dunkirk in parentheses, but also Ladybird, because I'm like, if honestly, I'd be happy with all three of them winning. I don't think Get Out or Phantom Thread are going to win this award, though. I would be very surprised if either of them did. I'm thinking it's most likely going to be Shape of Water, followed by Christopher Nolan, then Greta Gerwig. But it's a shame. I wish Greta Gerwig wasn't going up against these movies, because it is a phenomenal directed film and I can't wait to see it. I should be seeing it in like just like a week or so. I'm really excited. For costume design, we have Beauty and the Beast, Darkest Hour, Shape of Water, Phantom Thread, and Victoria and Abdul. I've already said the costumes in Victoria Abdul are phenomenal. I did put Beauty and the Beast for this one, but I have to be honest, that's just my own bias. I love Beauty and the Beast's costumes. Phantom Thread is an entire film about costume and fashion, and I put Phantom Thread in parentheses because I kind of feel like they might steer towards that. It would just make more sense. But Beauty and the Beast was all about these elaborate costumes, and I was thinking, you know, I knew it was going to be nominated. By the way, How Does the Moment Last Forever has been completely robbed from Sleep by Celine Dion. I talked about this in my Best of 2017 video. I will continually talk about how that song should have been nominated for Best Original Song from a film. In my heart, that is the best original song for the 2018 Oscars from Beauty and the Beast. Anywho. For cinematography, Shape of Water, Dunkirk, Mudbound, Darkest Hour, and Blade Runner 2049. Not a surprise here. I think it's going to be Dunkirk. I feel pretty safe about that. Shape of Water is a possibility because of how much traction it's getting, but Dunkirk, come on. It was just a phenomenally shot film. For Best Animated Feature Film, Boss Baby, why the hell was that nominated? Seriously? I'm not seeing it, but like there were so many other much more interesting animated films that came out. I don't understand. The Breadwinner, Coco, of course, Ferdinand, and Loving Vincent. Now, before I say, I do think Coco will win this. It's just been getting a lot of buzz, and I haven't seen Coco, and I do want to see it. Loving Vincent, I have seen recently, and it is phenomenal. As an artist myself, of course, studying Van Gogh, not Van Gogh, Van Gogh, and hearing his story come to life through the actor Saoirse Ronan is actually in this one. It is a breathtaking spectacle to see the level of detail that was put into all of these oil paintings that were brought to life on the screen in animation. It will make your jaw hit the floor. I mean, it's an incredible film about the mystery surrounding his death, and then there's also flashbacks that are in black and white charcoal to contrast sort of the more vivid colors for the oils, which signify the present day or the investigation right after the moment of his death by the protagonist. It is a phenomenal film, and I highly recommend checking it. Ideally, I would give it to Loving Vincent just because of the time and energy and devotion and art that was poured into this film. It is a testament to animation everywhere. But Coco, Pixar has done a really good job with this film. I've heard my dad's seen it. He says it's phenomenal. I definitely need to see this one. And I do see this one still winning, but it's a shame because Loving Vincent really deserves it as well. So for actress in a supporting role, I gotta be honest, this one's really hard for me to call because I haven't seen any of the films that these women are nominated for. Ultimately, I do think it'll be more towards Allison Janney for I, Tonya. I've heard that she's got a really phenomenal performance in that film, but also possibly Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread. Those are the two I am leaning towards the most. I know Octavia Spencer has been favored by the Academy before, but I don't necessarily think that she's going to win this for Shape of Water. I'm betting the most on Allison Janney, but honestly, I don't really care because I haven't seen any of these films yet. Okay, so for actor in a supporting role, we have William Dafoe, The Florida Project, Woody Harrelson, Three Billboards. Honestly, Woody Harrelson for The Glass Castle. He played Rex Walls, completely overlooked, came out in 2017. I'll link my review to that film in the description. Phenomenal film, if I haven't already mentioned and you don't realize. I'm actually, by marriage, related to the author, Jeanette Walls, who wrote the memoir that is the book, the story, The Glass Castle. So my cousins have met Jeanette. They've met Rex Walls' wife. For some reason, I'm blanking on her name, but the mother in the story. So I've never met her myself, but my parents have. So we're sort of distantly related, which makes it really cool, which made The Glass Castle such an exciting film to view. It's a shame it's getting completely glossed over at the Oscars, but the one thing I thought it might get a nod from was Woody Harrelson's phenomenal performance in that film. And it's a shame it got completely overlooked, but not only was he in Three Billboards, which is just steamrolled, he was also in LBJ. He was just too deep into other films. I did see LBJ, actually. I thought it was very well done. Anyway, we also have Richard Jenkins for Shape of Water, Christopher Plummer, All the Money in the World, and Sam Rockwell for Three Billboards. I think, and this might be a little bit risky to guess, but I think Christopher Plummer is going to win this one. I have seen All the Money in the World, and let me just say his performance is quite good. I think the fact that he came in on such short notice to replace Kevin Spacey, as we know, he did actually reshoot those scenes with the actors literally a month before this film hit theaters. It's an astonishing feat, and that in itself, I think, is going to give it a lot of favors in the Academy. So, I mean, Christopher Plummer, he did a pretty good job in that as a supporting role. I think he could definitely win that. Otherwise, I would say Sam Rockwell because he won the Golden Globe for this award. But like I said, I'm not really familiar with him and I haven't seen Three Billboards, so I'm going to go with what I've seen. And Christopher Plummer's gotten a lot of praise for that performance. For actress in a leading role, we have Sally Hawkins, The Shape of Water, Frances McDormand, Three Billboards, Margot Robbie, I, Tonya, Saoirse Ronan, Ladybird, Meryl Streep for The Post. I feel like that's a little bit of an honorary nomination. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's phenomenal in the movie, but it's sort of like, of course, Meryl has to be nominated for something. I'd love to see Saoirse take it home for Ladybird. I really would. However, I do think it's going to be Frances McDormand. She is sort of the flagship for this film, and I feel like she's going to be the one thing. She's actually the only Three Billboards like award that I have predicted will come through, but I'm probably going to be wrong. I think it'll be Frances. And then we have actor in a leading role, Timothy Chalamet, Call Me By Your Name, Daniel Day-Lewis, Phantom Thread, Daniel Kaluuya, Get Out, Gary Oldman, Darkest Hour, Denzel Washington, Roman J. Israel, Esquire. Gary Oldman, Darkest Hour. I'm banking on that. He won it, the Golden Globes. I think he's going to win it again here. He really made Darkest Hour the movie that it is, and he deserves recognition for it. I haven't seen all these other films, but I really do think he's going to win it. Otherwise, I guess Timothy Chalamet would be my second best guess. I can't wait to Call Me By Your Name. My gay heart is going to explode, though. Okay, and then lastly, we have the Best Picture nominees, Call Me By Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, The Post, Get Out, Ladybird, Phantom Thread, Shape of Water, Three Billboards. I do think Shape of Water will take home Best Picture. There is a possibility that Three Billboards could. It's sort of a toss-up. Honestly, I feel like all of these films, for once, deserve to be in the Best Picture. Although, to be completely honest, I do feel like Get Out being in there is a little bit strange. I can understand, it getting in there for the other categories. I just feel like it's a little bit left field to throw it in there. And like I said, I don't know. I feel like all of them do deserve to be in there. There's been a lot of previous years where I've been like, there are so many movies in the Best Picture category, which, by the way, they can stuff a lot of movies into that category that really don't deserve to be there. And so ultimately, although I'd love to see Lady Bird win, I think it's going to be Shape of Water, but maybe Three Billboards. And of course, Call Me By Your Name, Dunkirk, they were all phenomenal films. It's just really hard to predict. So let me know what you think, if you agree with any of these predictions, and make your own lists and see which ones you get right. I'm really excited to see. The Oscars is always sort of one award ceremony I'm always very invested in and interested in. So I wonder if there'll be any mix-ups this time around. Hopefully not, but that was quite entertaining last year, wasn't it? So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, I'll link my review in the description to Beauty and the Beast and to The Glass Castle. They're the only films I have fully reviewed on this channel. I do plan on reviewing films more on this channel in the future, but right now, since I'm still kind of starting out here, I have so many albums that I want to review from the past that I kind of want to get through first before I start foraging into film, because I do have a lot to say about film as well. I believe film is such an important thing in my life, and I am very intrigued and inspired by film, just as I am by music as well as by books. So I may even start reviewing books, who knows? That's definitely far, far down the line, but I definitely don't want to just box myself into music. That's why I'm talking about the Oscars. So please give this video a like and subscribe if you did, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.